Hi, today we are going to review the assignment parameters for reviewing a short story. And the intent for this video is really to give you access to the comments that I included in the assignment. So you can read through the review, of course, step by step, but I'll just point out a few things to you. Obviously, as a reminder, you can choose any of the 6 stories that we read in class. You cannot choose to review All Summer in a Day because that is the story that is utilized for the mentor text example that is in this document. So as we scroll down, why isn't it letting me scroll? Here we go. I'm going to move my screen up so you can see the comments more closely. Get the little adjustments here. Here we go. Here we go. So I want to bring your attention to the title. This is something we talked about in class in first hour today. I really want to push you to expand your title creating skills. So you can see that this title is so vivid you can't get free of them in reference to the children in the story and the impact that they make on Margot. They're so sort of vicious that you feel almost as if they're with you all the time. So I think that this is a creative and thought-provoking title, and I want to encourage you to do the same. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see the notes that I make. I mentioned this in class, were Mr. Goulden's notes, but when I transferred them into the document, they come up as mine. But just to give reference where reference is due, I want to make sure that I acknowledge that the notes are his. So the review starts with this lovely opening quote. A quote is always an excellent way to start a piece. You can see that it provides some information from the author's own thoughts, and it references here and in the beginning 2 different separate research articles. This is, again, a great way to incorporate outside sources. So I encourage you to seek out either a quote from your own author, the author that you choose to review, or you can seek out a quote from another author who has, in fact, commented on your author's work. So you can read through my comments here. We scroll on down and you can see that I've noted here, All Summer in a Day, you must include the name of your short story in quotation marks. You must include the location and where and when your story was published. And this might take a little bit of research. And if you do need to conduct that research, which you most likely will, you need to make sure that you cite that. Now, I mentioned that this piece appeared in the Paris Review, which is not an American publication, so they do not adhere to MLA citations. But if you were to incorporate this information in your piece, which you will need to cite it. I move on down here to the fact that the author succinctly develops a concise opinion statement or thesis statement. You practice these with all of the stories we read, I think, except for 11. So you have quite a bit of practice, and you certainly have drafts of opinion statements for each of the stories that we read. It's a pretty short statement. You're not necessarily analyzing the piece like you would in a literary analysis. Instead, you are just making a general statement about your opinion of the short story and why your opinion, you believe your opinion is true. Let me see if I can get this into a better location over here, maybe. I can move. There we go. That's a little bit better. Then finally, we move on down here, and the author summarizes the setting and a couple of key plot elements. So you will be required to do that in your piece. Moving on down, again, you can read these. The author supports the summary with specific and relevant quotation from the story, which he places in quotation marks. Again, this author, because they were not in the United States, did not cite the short story, but you will need to using parenthetical citations. Be thoughtful in your quote selection. You're wanting to make sure that the quotes that you select from the short story really provide good evidence for your opinion statement. So I really want you to be thoughtful about that process. Moving down here, this is an example just of humor. Humor keeps the piece moving forward and interesting. Again, this is another quotation from the short story. And as you read through it, because you've read the short story, I would like for you to consider why this quotation is the best piece of evidence. And if you don't agree with it, why might it actually not be a good piece of evidence? Just consider how and why this quotation is used. Again, this section of the text of the quote, I would like for you to think about why the reviewer might have included this particular part of the short story. Out of all the paragraphs in the short story, how does this particular quotation balance or work with or support the opinion statement? Sorry about that. Why is this not happening? Finally, all right, I'm going to have to do this over. So today we're going to review the requirements for the short story review that we are currently drafting, or we're getting ready to draft. So for this assignment, as a reminder, you can select one of the 6 stories we read that are listed here. You cannot review all Summer in a Day, because that's the example that we're going to look at today. We're going to look at a review that appeared in the Paris Review, and I'm going to talk you through several comments that offer some further explanation regarding the requirements for the paper. So we'll move over here and begin to look at those comments. So you can see here that I want to draw your attention to the title of this piece. I really want to push you to think about your title for this piece. So vivid you can't get free of them. I think that's an extremely creative and thought-provoking title for All Summer in a Day, referencing back to the children who are so sort of vicious to Margot. And their behaviors really sticks with you even after you put the story down. So I think that the author of this piece did a great job in sort of referencing that without being, really in your face. So I encourage you to do that with your piece. This piece opens up with an excellent quote by Ray Bradbury that was taken from The Art of Fiction. And so I encourage you to utilize a quote to open your piece. To do this, you'll have to do a bit of research. You'll have to find a source where your author is speaking about their own work, or you might find a source where another author speaks about your chosen author's work. So this will take a bit of research on your part, and your research will also have to be cited, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment. So again, you can read through the comments here. I do want to also mention that these comments were actually taken from a document that Mr. Goulden created, so I'm giving him kudos and citing him as the original author of this commentary along here. So as we move beyond the opening quote, which you should remember from the video that we watched of Ray Bradbury last year when we read Fahrenheit 451. Right here, you'll note that the title of the short story is mentioned in quotation marks, not italicized and not underlined and not in bold, just simply in quotation marks. This should happen very early in the piece. As we move on down, you will see that the author mentions or ends the opening paragraph with a concise opinion statement. So an opinion statement, you practice these in your writing notebooks for all of the pieces that we read. So if you need to, you can go back and look over those, but it's just simply a succinct statement that offers up your opinion about the piece. This is not a literary analysis piece. So you're not delving into, symbolism or themes, that type of focus. Instead, you're just simply offering up your opinion about the piece. That opinion is still going to be backed up with evidence, but you don't have to go into as deep a level of analysis as you would with literary analysis. I need to jump back up. I forgot to focus on this piece. The author identifies where and when the story first appeared. So again, you're going to need to do a little bit of research to find out that information. And again, you'll need to cite wherever you end up finding that information. All right, as we move on down, the author quickly and succinctly summarizes a few key plot elements as well as the setting of the story. So make sure you do that early on in the piece. The author supports his summary with a specific and relevant quotation from the story, which he places in quotation marks. Now, again, my comment about the citation process. This piece appeared in the Paris Review, which is not in the United States, so they do not adhere to MLA citing guidelines, but you are writing this piece utilizing MLA guidelines. So you will, in fact, need to place your quotation in quotation marks and properly cite it using the author's last name. I also want to remind you to be very thoughtful in terms of selecting the quotations that you utilize in your review. They should circle right back up to your opinion statement. They should provide evidence for your opinion. As we move on down, a quick dash of humor always keeps a piece moving. Encourage you to do that. Here we just offer up some questions about why the author chose to use this particular quote here, and especially this section right down here, the last quote. Just read through that, and you should be able to answer in your brain why the author utilized this particular quote, circling back up to their thesis statement, which was, it's conceptually unforgettable and among the stories I've read of his, uniquely haunting. So you'll need to ask yourself, do the quotes utilized in this review back that up? Do they offer up evidence that reflect this opinion statement that the piece is uniquely haunting? I'm going to leave that to you to determine that. As we move on down here, the reviewer balances informal elements such as first person I and beginning sentences with and with more formal scholarly language. I am going to require you for this piece to avoid first person. I allowed you to use first person in the movie review and in the review of the musical, of Barstow's musical, but now we're taking a further step forward with our analysis skills, moving toward that paper that we're going to do third quarter, where you're going to analyze a piece utilizing a literary lens. So because we're moving in that direction, I'm going to require you to step away from the informal first person I and move to third person he, she. Moving on down here, the author analyzes the story's impact on the reader. So you should do the same. Again, you can offer up opinions without utilizing I. Sometimes that feels confusing, but this is an opinion. As a parable about senseless cruelty, it sticks in the mind